understand just why you wanna keep me guessing.
Hi BookTube, it's Missy. Yeah, long time no see. Today I'm here to finally share with you guys my January wrap-up. For some reason, 2019 has literally kicked my butt when it comes to illnesses. I have not been this sick in the last 5 years. It's like all of the buildup of not being sick for years and years and years, and then bam, I've been sick nonstop for the last couple months now, and it's driving me crazy. Right now I do have a sore throat. I had a fever all weekend, and that's another thing. I've never had this many fevers before, but every time my body gets sick, my body goes into fever mode. I don't know if that's because it's trying to you know, kill the illness faster, and so it's like trying to hibernate myself, so I just sleep all day. I don't know. When I do have a fever, I literally just stay in bed all day long. But we're not here to discuss how disgusting I am and how I keep getting sick. We're here to discuss all of the books I read in January. So for this month, I did read 6 books. Here are the books. Here's the books. I think I did pretty well, considering that most of January I was sick. So to have all of these books read is a miracle. The first book I want to talk about was a library book. So let me stand over here so I can show you the picture of it. And that is The Agony House by Cherie Priest. Now, this is my first time reading Cherie Priest, and I have to say, I don't think I will pick up one of her books again. The Agony House, when I saw it on the internet when it was first coming out, looked to me like it was going to be a graphic novel. And that's not why I don't like Cherie Priest. I'll get to that in a second. This isn't a graphic novel. It is a regular novel with graphic novel segments throughout it. So, the book is about a girl who is, I think, 17? I guess it doesn't really matter how old she is, but she is an older teenager who acts like she's a younger teenager. And that always throws me off when I'm reading YA. Maybe it's because I have children and I work with children and I used to be a child, so I know what most kids do at certain ages. But this book and these kids felt very juvenile, immature to the max. So I wasn't really thrilled with how the writing was going with the teenagers. So this girl moves into this dilapidated house in New Orleans. Hurricane Katrina wiped out most of the city. This house has been, oh no. Sorry, my son just called from the nurse's office and I had to tell him, no, you're not coming home. I have to go to work today. So we were talking about our teenager who moves into this dilapidated house. Now, the rest of the houses on the block are still really broken up. This house, however, was able to stand the hurricane and everything, but it is pretty far gone, and it has been boarded up for years. Like, literally, one of the oldest people in the book, this grandma, remembers when she was little, people used to dare her to go inside this haunted house. So it's been around for a really long time, and it has lasted. So the parents buy it. They decide they're going to fix up the house, make it a historical home where, you know, people can come in and see it. And they also want to turn it into a bed and breakfast. The entire neighborhood is upset about the family moving in because they find that in the past a lot of white people have moved into the community, fixed up homes, brought in more rich families, and then left. And then so they have these pockets of rich areas where they don't help the community at all. They just kind of stick to their own little bubble. And so the girl is being ostracized, I think that's how you say the word, for being white, for being rich, and for moving in and taking over. So we have this kind of like political thing going on the sideline of the story. And then we have the fact that the house is haunted. So there's this really like pushy neighbor friend that comes in. He's like, I've always wanted to be in this house, so I invited myself in and I want you to show me around, which is kind of repulsive. Like, nobody wants somebody just to walk over to their house and be like, hi, I'm so-and-so. Let me into your house so I can finally see it because it's the talk of the town. I think that's very strange. I'm sure there's kids that do that, but again, this isn't like a little kid. This is an actual teenager. Most teenagers wouldn't do this. So as they're going through this tour, they find a comic book in the attic, and they decide to read the comic book. That's when the graphic novel portion comes in to the story. Every time the girl opens up the comic book, we get to read about the comic that she's, you know, reading herself, which is kind of a cool concept. But overall, I found the haunting part of the book to be lackluster. I found the teenagers to be quite immature. I found the comic book to be weird. We have this like detective woman who is always having to find her boyfriend and save him because he's always being kidnapped. It's kind of like a reversal of genders where it's instead of the woman in distress or the damsel in distress, it's a man, and the woman is, you know, always fighting. She's got the gun and she's killing all these supernatural creatures and saving her boyfriend all the time, which is great, but still kind of lame at the same time. Like, why can't she be powerful and not have to save her boyfriend? Like, why is that on there? Regardless, so the comic was just okay too. I don't know. I had a lot of feelings for this book, and not in a good way, kind of like in a confused sense. I just didn't like it. I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't awful. I just would never read it again, and I would never read anything written by Cherie Priest again, just because I don't feel like we mesh well. And I'm not saying that you won't like it. I just know that it wasn't scary, and I didn't really like it. It did take a while to read too, because I just didn't want to pick it up anymore. Anyways, let's get on to, you know, more positive reviews. We have here The Frog and Toad Treasury, 3 books written and illustrated by Arnold Lobel. This was for the A Year-a-thon Readathon. The theme was throwbacks, which you were supposed to read childhood favorites. I grew up on Frog and Toad. My grandma is infatuated with frogs for some strange reason. And I could have sworn I had read every single story in this book, but apparently not. I read Frog and Toad Are Friends numerous times growing up, and Frog and Toad Together, again, numerous times. But I had never read Frog and Toad All Year. It was astounding to me to find out that I had never read those stories, and to read them for the first time was a lot of fun. So what we have here is Frog and Toad. Let me show you a picture of them together because they are so stinking cute, and I love the illustrations. So Frog is our optimistic friend. He's lighthearted, always fun to be around, loves an adventure. And then we have Toad, who is grumpy, sleepy, stubborn, self-conscious, all this other stuff. But I love their dynamic because even though Toad acts, here's Toad, even though he acts like he's indifferent and he doesn't really care all that much about anything that goes around him. He's obsessed with his best friend, Toad. He always wants to make sure that he's happy, or if he's sick, he wants to make him well, which is super sweet. And vice versa. Frog is always trying to cheer up Toad, and he does these little cute things for him whenever he's feeling blue. For one example, Toad has never received mail before, but he always sits and waits for the mail even though he never gets anything. And Frog goes, "Why do you do that?" And he goes, "I don't know, maybe one day I'll get something." And so Frog decides to rush home, write him a letter, and then they wait together for the mail. And Toad's like, "There's no point waiting for the mail. I never get anything." And Frog goes, "No, you should wait." And Toad's like, "No, I can't wait. Nobody ever sends me anything." And Frog goes, "I sent you something." And so Toad's super excited to be there. And then Toad decides that he wants to do something nice for Frog, and he tries to make him feel better when Frog is sick, and Frog's like, "Tell me a story, tell me a story," and Toad's like, "Well, I don't know any stories, but I'll try to think about one." And he tries so hard he makes himself sick, and then Frog's not sick anymore, so he tells Toad a story instead. Again, super cute. I gave this book 5 stars. I bought it for $3 at Book Off. Definitely worth the money. If you like, I'm going to consider this a classic. This is definitely a classic. It came out forever ago. If you like kid stories and you haven't read this, I would definitely pick it up. It is so much fun. So much fun. 5 stars. All right. The next book I read was Under the Harrow by Flynn Barry. This was part of the books that I wanted to catch up on for my 52 books around the year. I always say that wrong. Around the year and 52 books. That's the way it goes. I've been wanting to read this for a really long time, and I finally picked it up, and I absolutely like Flynn Barry's writing, and I'm excited to read more of her stuff. So, it says here it's a nail-biting. Fans of Gone Girl and The Girl on the Train will no doubt love this dark, chilling book. Because I've read both of those books, I can say that it is not like Gone Girl whatsoever. More like Girl on the Train, but not quite. So we have a sister. What's her name? Nora. Okay, there's Nora and Rachel. I never can remember characters' names anymore for some reason. So Nora is on a train to meet her sister. Her and her sister are not best friends, but to Nora they are extremely close. They do a lot of sister nights where they cook and drink and talk about stuff, or they go on holidays together quite often. But what Nora finds out is that Rachel has this secret, and she's never told Nora because she doesn't want Nora to worry. When we meet Nora, she's on her way to her sister's house, and in the very first chapter, or the first page, I think, okay, not the first page, maybe the third page, regardless, at the beginning of the story, she walks in to her sister's home, and her sister is murdered along with her dog. And the whole story is Nora trying to figure out what happened. Now, there's a neighbor that that Nora thinks did it, but she doesn't know. But she's so worried about the fact that he may have done it that she kind of follows him a lot, to the point where the police are starting to get suspicious. At one point, Nora is also a suspect because, again, she's so deeply involved in this murder, as in, you know, she's been calling people and investigating it on her own because she doesn't feel like the cops are doing a good enough job. I mean, she believes that they have the ability, but she doesn't think that they have enough manpower, time, money to really work the case because it's so random, you know, like there's not a lot of, what's it called? There's no motive. There's no like murder weapon. There's not a lot of things that the police can go off of besides the fact that this woman and dog were murdered in their home. And so the sister decides that she just wants to do all the investigating herself. So this book, which isn't very long, is this slow process of Nora putting the pieces together. If you like slow burning thrillers, and I wouldn't even consider this a thriller. It says it's a chilling book, but it's not. It's a mystery. We don't know who the killer is. We don't find out who the killer is until literally the very end. And what we find out is the killer had kind of a good reason to do it, but of course killing is never okay, so he shouldn't have. Anyways, there are no good characters in this book, so there's no like angels. Everyone in this book is flawed in some way or another. I did find the mystery intriguing. I did enjoy following the sister around, figuring out what she was going to do. At the beginning, it seemed like she was not a reliable witness or a reliable source for anything. And I still feel that same way even at the end. I feel like she wasn't a very reliable source, but we did get to a conclusion and we had closure in the story, so it was well written and it wrapped up nicely. So I did give this book a 4-star. I don't know why it wasn't a 5. Probably because I feel it was kind of slow, just a little bit. And some of the things that happened didn't make any sense maybe because of the unreliability of it. Not sure. Anyways, definitely looking forward to reading more of Flynn Barry's stuff. The next book was a reread. I finally finished it. I can't remember when I started this book. It might have been in December, November or December. And that is The Martian by Andy Weir. This is my 3rd read through of this book. I read this to my children and then we rewatched the movie again. And I stand by everything that I said the first time I read this book. This is a 5-star. It's genius. I absolutely love everything about this book. Andy Weir, and again, this just drives me crazy that his second book was so horrendous. Our main character, Mark Watney, is absolutely fantastic. Not only do lots of bad things happen to him on Mars, that seems realistic. That the challenges that he had to overcome seem plausible, and so it's not like super fantastical that he was able to overcome these odds. I loved the science aspect, and I know he tries to dummy it down a little bit for the viewers of, you know, his diary that he's documenting while he's on Mars. I know some people don't like that aspect, but I absolutely love it because, again, it makes it more authentic as a science fiction story. And then, of course, we have everything at NASA and on planet Earth, how, you know, China is trying to help out, but they don't want the government to know because, you know, China is supposed to be not an ally with the United States necessarily. They're trying to beat each other in the space wars. So it's all, again, something that I could see happening. And it's just such a fun read. And of course, at the end, I got teary-eyed because I always get teary-eyed because I'm a sap. And of course, I cried and my children had to wait for me to calm down to finish reading. I really like this book. If you haven't picked up this book, I would pick it up. I know people say, the movie, if you've watched the movie's pretty good. There are bits in the movie that did not take place in the book, and there are a lot of the book that did not take place in the movie. So if you like special features, pick up the book because you're missing out on a lot of struggles that was not put in the movie. I know why, because, you know, a movie has to be entertaining for all people. So they leave out all the drama bits and they put in more love interest and all this other crap. Okay, it's not crap to some people, but it was crap to me. I think Matt Damon did a good job as Mark Watney. I think you should pick up this book, definitely. And that's all I want to say about that. All right, the next book that I read for the A Year-a-thon, Read-a-thon, I know this is not in order. When I do read-a-thons, a lot of the times I won't finish the book during the read-a-thon. I'll finish it in the month. So I did pick this up because of the read-a-thon, but I did not finish it during the read-a-thon. Does that make sense? Okay. And the next one was Heidi by, I think it's Johanna, because she's Swedish. Is it Johanna or Johanna? Let me know down in the comments below. Spyry. I have two things to say about Heidi. The first one is, my old edition of this book is far better than the Penguin Bloom edition. In my original Heidi, it is just like, it's an unabridged version and the translation is a lot better. This is more modernized, so if you pick up this one, just know that you're going to miss out on a lot of the Swedish names for things, and it really threw me off because in the original, the two goats that Heidi owns is called Little Bear and Little Swan, which I absolutely love. In this one, they're called Daisy and something else, and that doesn't match at all with the animals. Little Bear is brown, Little Swan is white. How does Daisy and the other thing that they called the, I don't know what the boy's name is called. Regardless, it doesn't match, and it makes me angry that they changed it. It also makes me angry that they changed the grandpa from Uncle, the Alp Uncle, or excuse me, the Alm Uncle to the Alp Uncle. It's such a small thing to change, but it infuriated me. I don't know why. Regardless, let's continue with the review, because that's what you guys are here for. So, Heidi's a little girl who grew up in Switzerland. Let's start. Okay, so Heidi's a little girl who grew up in Switzerland. Now, when she was born, her parents died, like when she was an infant. And the sister, her mom's sister, raised her until she was 5. As soon as the grandma died, the sister felt that she no longer needed to watch Heidi and decided to drop her off at the paternal father's house. Now, everybody in town believes that the Alm Uncle is not a menace, but that he deserves what he got. Like, he had, and from what the book says, that the grandpa was kind of a drinker, but only because he had a hard life. And as soon as his son died, he became very, like, standoffish and decided to leave the town and move to the mountains and live a solitary life. And the people don't like that. They're like, what a bugger. You know, he leaves, he doesn't ask for help, you know, he deserves what he got. his son died because he was a wicked, wicked man, which is completely insane. How rude to sit there and tell somebody, your kid deserves to die because you used to fight and drink when you were younger. It doesn't make any sense. But that's why the grandpa is looked down upon from, you know, the town that he lives in. The sister drops Heidi off. The grandpa's a little like, I haven't had a kid in my house in so long. I don't know what to do with her. The sister's like, bye, I'm leaving. Good riddance. And then the grandpa falls in love with Heidi. Of course. She's beautiful. She's precocious. She's super sweet and loving and caring and empathetic and all of the good qualities you would want in a person. And she just makes life better for everyone around her. And the grandpa is just like in love, absolutely in love, doesn't ever want to let her go, to the point where he won't even let her go to school because he doesn't want her to mix with the people down in the village. He feels like they are judgmental and then they will damage her and give her bad ideas and make her, you know, less sweet. He doesn't want to dirty her perception of life. And that is a sweet thing. I mean, you can't keep your kids protected forever, but it was sweet that he wanted to try. And then the aunt comes back, takes the girl. Grandpa's sad again. The girl goes to a rich people's house to be the companion of a little girl who is stuck in a wheelchair. And Heidi hates it. She loves being with the little girl. She thinks that the owner of the house, Mr. Sussman, is, you know, super sweet. She loves the little girl's grandma, but she misses home, and so she gets sent back. And things go from there. I mean, I could literally tell you the whole story in about 5 minutes, but I don't want to spoil it if you haven't read it. That's just the beginning of the story. There's a lot of things that take place. Heidi is able to really negotiate and inspire everybody around her to be more positive and to do more things and to learn and grow and be better people all around. And I just absolutely love the moral of this book. And at the back, you know, at the very end, it talks about how God gives you things. Well, this is my main point that I took from it. God gives you things when it's time, when you are ready for it. If you ask for something and it's not a good time in your life to have what you want, He won't give it to you until the time comes where you actually need it. And that's my logic. I've always lived my life like that. If I don't get what I want, it's because it's not time yet, or I'm not ready for it. So to have it restated for me here in this book was really sweet. I absolutely loved it, and I gave this book 5 stars. Again, this one is a modernized, I don't believe it's abridged or anything like that, but it is modernized, and I don't like that. So it's up to you if you want to read the more modernized version or the more traditional, older version. They both have 2 different translators. This one is translated by, where is it? Eileen Hall, and I just didn't like it. So, but the book overall is 5 stars. I listened to this on audio. I didn't even read this one because every time I picked it up to find out what page number I was on, I would realize how different the words were compared to my original. And then I pulled out my original because my original matched the audiobook that I was listening to. So that was just like making me more mad. All right, the last book that I was able to complete in January was The Truth and Other Lies by Sasha Arango. Now, Lala over at Books and Lala had a readathon called the Buzzword-a-thon. It was a week long, and again, I picked this book up because I wanted to participate in the readathon. I did not read this during the readathon, but I did complete it in January. And I've had this on my shelf not too long. I bought this off of Book Outlet maybe last year sometime. I've been so good at reading my Book Outlet books in the last year, like right away, whereas I didn't read any of my Book Outlet books from previous years. Someone asked me if I could do kind of like a closet unhaul like Lala had on her channel, where I discuss all the books I purchased from my book hauls, and then if I can't read those books within a month, that I should just unhaul them. And I told her, I said, there's absolutely no way I could do that, because I used to haul like 35, 40 books at a time. When I first started my channel, I was a freak about buying books because they're $1, you know what I mean? Or Book Outlet would be super cheap back then. It's still cheap. You don't have to pay shipping now. Back then I would buy a billion books and then I'd have to pay like $14 in shipping. My throat's starting to really hurt. Okay, I gotta get this done. No more tangents. Regardless, that's not gonna happen because I would have too many books to read in a month. This I got from Book Outlet and I did like it. Now, oh, I didn't even tell you. So Lala's Buzzwordathon was lie. Lie was the word that you were looking for, so you had to read a book that had lie in it, or liar. And this has lies. So, this one I also gave 4 stars. This is about a man who writes books. Now, I believe in the first chapter, maybe? I think? Well, you find out that Henry Hayden actually doesn't write his stories, that his wife does. His wife is very shy and enjoys her own you know the word I'm trying to say, anonymity? She doesn't want anyone to know that she writes these stories. She doesn't want to be in the public, in the spotlight. She doesn't want any of that stuff. But her husband found that she had boxes and boxes of manuscripts just rotting in her basement and decided to save these because they were so well written. He wanted the world to read them. And because she didn't care whether or not he published them, she just went along with it. It was almost like a possession. Like the wife really had to write these stories, and a lot of writers say that. Or even Stephen King says that. His stories get backed up, and the only way to like purge is to write as much as he can about all these different characters. So the wife is the same way. She has to write, and every night she writes, and after every time she is finished with a book, he gets it published under his name. He goes to all of the book signings. He, knows all about the books, but not to the point like a writer would know. So if someone says a quote from one of his books, he won't know what book that came from because he didn't physically write them. He just read them before he sent it out. And yeah. And then one day his side piece gets pregnant, and everything unravels after that. A lot of stuff goes down. This is not a murder mystery because you know who the killer is right off the bat. It's more along the line of, I mean, this isn't even a thriller either. It's more along, how is this husband going to live now after he finds out that his mistress is pregnant? What does he want to do now in life? There's this man that he meets that is trying to expose him of being a fraud. And so he has to deal with that as well. And because this book has a lot of spoilers, I don't want to give anything away. So I'm just going to be quiet after that. Yeah, I mean, it says all this on the back of the book. It says that he that he's a fake writer and that his mistress gets pregnant. But I don't want to say anything else. Just go in knowing that this isn't a murder mystery or a thriller, but a slow exposure of this man's life. Would that be considered a drama? I don't know. I don't know. I really liked it though. There was something missing, and that's why I didn't give it a 5, but I can't put my finger on what that was missing. I don't know. I liked it. I liked it. 4 stars. All right. Wow. This video was too long. I do apologize for being gone so much this year. I will try not to get sick, but you know, I can only do so much. Yeah, that's it. I hope you guys are enjoying your February so far. I hope no one else is sick. Let me know down below what you read in January. What was your favorite book? Have you read any of the books that I have read in January? Yeah, and hopefully I will be back with some more videos this week, depending on whether or not I feel good and well. Right now, I feel great, but who knows how I'll feel tomorrow. So, I'm playing it by ear. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you. Bye!